ever given you feedback that you didn't really ask for and you found yourself getting angry about that? Or have you ever been at the airport and your flight's delayed, you need to get where you're going, and there's not giving any information, there's no information about when the flight's going to leave, or they cancel the flight, you become very angry, you go and take it out on the gate agent, and they have a sea of people they're trying to help, but you need to be heard. Or have you ever been driving in traffic and someone moves over into your lane without signaling and doesn't seem to even notice that you were there, and you become very upset about that, and you want to pull up next to the person and shake your fist at them or whatever, and you really get angry about that? Or have your kids been doing things that are annoying you, perhaps, and you bark at them, you cut them off, and you snap at them? Well, if any of those things have happened to you, then you're probably a normal human being, and those happen to all of us. And once they happen and we have a reaction, we often look something like this. We have some sort of remorse, we feel shame, we may become emotional about it, we really can't believe we did that once we've had a chance to think about it. Well, if anything like this has happened to you, then it's most likely that you have experienced an emotional hijack. And an emotional hijack or emotional hijacking is defined by Peter Carden as a situation in which our emotions control our behavior, causing us to react without thinking. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that here for the next few minutes. My name is Gary Plaag, and I run an organization called Coraggio Consulting, and we work with people on their interpersonal and presentation communication skills. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what happens with emotional hijacking, why that happens, what you can do about it, ways that you can grow and learn so that you don't have those same reactions. So let's get started. So here on the diagram on the left, you'll see that there's a picture of a human body and a spine and a brain. And what happens is that when there's emotional hijacking going on, is that because all of the sensory signals that we receive have to go up into our brain, they pass through a lower part of the brain called the limbic system. And this limbic system is where our emotions are processed. And so, as you can see, we have to feel incoming messages before we apply reason to them, because the rational part of the brain is further along the line. So these signals that we get have to pass through the emotional part of the brain first in order to be able to be processed in the rational part. Now, this limbic system is designed to protect us. It's part of our DNA. It's been with us for thousands, if not millions of years, and it's protect us from wild animals and life-threatening situations that might kill us. And so it's a real benefit to have it, but sometimes it's not what we need at the time. So in an emotional hijack, our emotions get triggered and they can cause problems, like they can control our behavior, just like yelling at your kids when they annoy you for some reason. They can cause reactions without us even thinking about them. We just snap at them, at the person, or at our kids, or at the person who's cut us off in traffic. We just have a reaction and we don't even think about it. And then this can prevent effective interpersonal communication, because we do things that when we're thinking, we don't do them. But when we're not thinking, they just happen. And they can cause all kinds of damage, and they enable unwanted behaviors that we have. So let's take a look at what kinds of actions might be triggered from an emotional hijack. Well, one thing is that we say things we later regret. We've probably all been in that situation. I said this, I really didn't mean it, now I have to go back and apologize. Next, we could display frustration or anger, and depending on where we are, if we're by ourselves, that might not be a bad thing. But if we're in front of other people, if we're at a meeting at work, if we're at a party and we display frustration, or we get angry, or we yell at someone, we do things that no one else is aware of what's going on except for us, and then we do this thing and then everyone's looking at us. So then it becomes, now it's embarrassing. we might shut down and be silent. This happens sometimes in business meetings or at events where somebody does something to us, and then we just shut down and say, okay, I'm not going to participate anymore. I'm just going to be quiet. And it might be a brainstorming meeting, and your idea was people laughed at it or whatever. And so we just shut down. And then we're not really participating in the meeting anymore. We could fail to listen effectively. So we may have, somebody may have said something to us or done something. They've then come back to us. We're now upset. They've come back to us and they've said, hey, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that, but we don't hear them. And we don't listen to what they're saying, or we don't listen to what's going on in the rest of the meeting because we're so upset about what was just said to us or our interpretation of what was said to us from the emotional hijack. And finally, we can disengage from others from being emotionally hijacked. And when we do that, then clearly we're not engaging in effective interpersonal communication. So what causes us to have these kinds of reactions? Well, in a work situation, and especially in situations and in times where there's a lot of change going on, perhaps even during some sort of economic downturn or even global pandemic or whatever, we're in our homes a lot and we're around our families a lot, and this causes just a lot of stress to happen. And so stress is one of the big things that leads us into emotional hijacking. And so we need to find ways to minimize that stress that we have. So clearly that's a good idea. One thing that will help us to understand emotional hijacking and how we can minimize it or mitigate it is to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has 4 basic domains, and we want to grow that emotional intelligence. And there are two resources that we could use to do that. One is, there are 2 books actually. One is called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and the 4 domains of emotional intelligence are discussed here. And then in another book by Daniel Goleman, who's considered one of the leaders in the emotional intelligence world and movement some years ago, his book, Emotional Intelligence, is fascinating as well. Highly recommend both of these books if you want to learn more about emotional intelligence. But let's take a look at the 4 basic domains of emotional intelligence. So the first one is self-awareness. It's the foundation for emotional intelligence, or which also is called emotional quotient. And that is accurately understanding your emotions as they occur and how they affect you. The second domain is self-management, which is the ability to use awareness of your emotions to stay flexible and to direct your behavior in a positive way. The third domain to emotional intelligence is empathy. And that's the ability to accurately pick up on the emotions of others and then understand what's really going on with those people. And the fourth one is relationship management, which is the ability to use your awareness of emotions and those of others to successfully manage interactions. So you might wonder, how do I really have the power of choice? Well, the good news is that you do. You can choose generally how you're going to control your thoughts and your actions. And if we can learn how to do that by becoming more emotionally intelligent and by being more self-aware and having better self-management. And we also, it's important to know here that while we can choose our thoughts and our actions, and we can generally control them, those thoughts and actions that we choose have an impact on our emotions and our physiology. So if we choose positive thoughts and positive actions, we will then likely have more positive emotions and a better physiology. Now, some other things to think about. One is to be aware of the triggers that can get you emotionally hijacked. So think about what kind of things generally set me off. What kind of things? Is it loud people? Is it annoying people? Is it things on social media? Is it things I see on the television? Is it my neighbor that I don't like? Is it Is it something that my kids do? Is it something that my significant other does? What are the things that trigger me that get me emotionally hijacked? Next, you want to know that you always have a choice as to how you're going to react and behave. My mom used to always say, we have no control over what others say and do, only how we react to what they say and do. So know that you have a choice about how you're going to do that. It may take some time, it's not easy, but learning more about the triggers can help you to have better choices of how to react and behave. Next, you want to learn stress mitigation techniques to minimize the chance that you're going to be weakened and go into an emotional hijacking. And fourth is that you want to learn more about emotional intelligence and how you can apply it. So what else can we do to avoid emotional hijacking? Is there some final thoughts about it? One, you can engage in relaxation techniques, perhaps yoga, deep breathing, exercises, ride a bike, go for a run, go to the gym, go swimming, take a walk, do something physical that will help you to just relax. Next, you can sleep on situations that happen before you react. So this might be helpful in an email situation where you get an email that really enrages you and upsets you, and you decide to respond right away. And maybe the best thing to do is to not respond right away. Maybe the best thing to do is let it sit for a little while and then maybe write a response, but don't put the return address into the to field on your email, and just let your email sit overnight and then get back up the next morning and take a look at it and see if you want to change it, leave it the way it is, or maybe just not send it at all. Next, you could talk to a trusted friend who is effective at self-management. Whenever I get emotionally hijacked, and it still happens as much as I try for it to not happen, I have friends that I call who are really good at talking me down off the ledge. They know we've talked about these strategies before. They have them, and they ask me to help them walk through them and reduce them. And I know to call them and tell them that I'm feeling like I'm emotionally hijacked right now, and I need to talk it through so that I can find a way to deal with it better than just reacting. Next, we could focus on how to be better the next time and resist the urge to beat ourselves up about how we didn't handle it well in the past. Instead, we can look at, wow, I've learned some new skills, I've learned some new tools, and now I can use them the next time that I'm in this situation. And finally, we want to practice positive self-talk, and we want to visualize ourselves responding to another stimulus of some kind, to another issue, another challenge, another problem, another comment that someone makes, another experience we have. We want to think about and practice visualizing, how am I going to react to that the next time? And I've been doing this a lot, just driving, and somebody will do something crazy on the road, and I just say, you know, they're probably having a bad day, and I don't need to get there as fast as they do, so I'm good. So hope this helps you. These are some ideas about how you can avoid an emotional hijack. And I encourage you again to research and learn more about emotional intelligence and dig deeper into the 4 domains of emotional intelligence: the self-awareness, self-management, and then empathy, or your feelings and emotions towards others, and having an ability to understand where they're coming from, and finally, relationship management. So thanks for listening, and have a great day.